Yeah.
So, and in those times, like to be able to have my community come surround me and remind me of truth, remind me of the grace that I've been given, and just love me well through that, both with harsh truth and empathy, I think has been huge. So I think community is one of those big things of just like to be able to wrestle well. We are meant to bear each other's burdens and walk in community.
Welcome back to Humble, where we talk about the real stuff. You may notice I'm in a separate space that's different than where I usually am, and that's because I'm really excited today. But before I get to that, I just want to say thank you so much for all of you that have joined, not just a movement, but a community. This is a community where we are doing just that. We're talking about real things. We're talking about real life and as it relates to what it means to follow Jesus. And listen, I got all the pleasantries out of the way because I just want to jump in because I'm really excited today. I have with me our very first guest in the Humble community, our very first guest, y'all. So this is a big episode that I'm really excited for. And this guy that I'm about to introduce, we've been walking together for a little over 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So a little over 2 years, we'll probably get into this a little bit, but even how we met was very, very interesting. And that quickly turned the initial thing that we met over, it morphed way more than just that. And now we have a friendship and a brotherhood. And I am really, really excited to introduce for the first time, but hopefully not the last time on the Humble podcast, Mr. Christian Gentil. Come on, man.
Wow.
Man, I'm so excited that you're here, bro.
Yeah.
We did it, man. Listen, before we even started, I was just like, this is probably going to be like an extension of just our natural conversations that we've had over the last couple of years. And it's been an honor just to be someone that sits at the seat of the table of your life. So thank you for giving me that honor. But man, give the viewers just a little bit about you. Where are you from? How'd you grow up? That sort of thing.
Yeah. So I'm from Missouri, born and raised. Southeast Missouri, Cape Girardeau, born, kind of grew up there. Good Midwestern boy, and then moved to Illinois, went to middle school, high school there, and then I moved back to Missouri, went to college, Mizzou, M-I-Z.
Come on.
And then kind of stayed there for a couple years, and then moved down here to Dallas, Texas about 3.5 years ago. So I kind of hopped all over a little bit, honestly, but mostly born and raised in the Midwest. So, yeah.
Wow, bro.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've been here for three plus years. Does Dallas feel like home though?
It does. I would say like I kind of got to a spot about 3.5 years ago where I was ready to kind of get out of the Midwest and I was looking for something new. And the Lord just kind of moved me to Dallas, Texas, really quickly and unexpectedly. But I have loved it. Very, very different, very fast paced, but so much fun. Honestly, like to spend my late 20s here has been just a blast. So much fun. I could definitely see myself staying here for a while. So we'll see what happens.
That's what you said, late 20s, like you hold on to it.
Yeah.
Like late 20s.
We turned 29 in a month.
Are you really about to be 29?
Yeah.
Oh my
gosh. We're trying to stay young as long as possible.
I mean, you're still a young adult.
Yeah.
Technically, you're still a young adult. That's funny, man. Well, man, I'm glad that you're here. Because if I'm going to have a podcast where we talk about real things, real life, real conversations as it relates to faith and like how we live out our faith, man, when I thought about people I want to put in front of our viewers, I'm like, I couldn't think of anybody other than you to start off with, man. And I remember when I asked you, I was a little nervous because I was like, he's probably gonna be like, nah, I'm not doing that. But you were just like, man, I'd love to. And that turned from like a loose conversation to now a reality. Yeah. But man, you've lived a lot of life. You've lived a lot of life. You have quite the story that I would love to get into, man. But let's just start there, man. Like, what was your life like, maybe growing up as it relates to your faith in Jesus? Like, talk to us a little bit about that.
There's a lot there. So I kind of, whenever I talk about my story, I kind of just, start off with like, I was raised in a Christian home. And I use the term like Christian home, like super loosely. I think I grew up in a home where, we were consistently going to church. But everything was very borderline legalistic for me. And I think from a young age, I had this view of God as this ruler in the sky that I just kind of needed to follow. And we would go to church, we would read the Bible because that's what good Christians did. And I would say like my parents definitely had a relationship with Christ, but definitely leaned a lot more on the legalistic side of things.
Understood.
And so it just felt more of a behavior that I had to do. And so my relationship with God was more of just like, I'm just doing these things as a routine because this is what my family does. And this is what I've always done. And so, yeah, I wouldn't say there was really much of a relationship there. I remember like when I was probably like 5, like confessing my faith in the Lord. And then I remember like the first time I got baptized, which I was probably maybe in 5th grade. I don't remember the exact timeline, but I remember getting baptized, and the only reason I did it is because I looked at a friend, and my friend was like, "I'll go if you go." And so, everything there was no meaning behind it. There was no relationship there. And so, yeah, very just distant from the Lord. And I remember just like a lot of trauma and stuff that I had gone through in my early years that really affected that. And then I got to high school, and I just got to a point where I was just like, okay, God, you've put me through hell and back. Like you say you're a good God, but I've been through all this in life. Like you've allowed this to happen. Like, why would I want to continue serving you or following this lifestyle? So I was like, I'm out. And kind of walked away from the Lord for a little bit, get to college. That just kind of went downhill. And then ended up just at the end of my freshman year of college, going to an athletic camp out in Colorado where the Lord it's a long story, but the Lord just met me in just a crazy way. And I ended up standing up on a picnic table in the mountains of Colorado and gave my life to Christ for the first time. And so I came back, and it was the next few years of college were just a struggle of like 1 foot in. I really want to understand this relationship with God, and 1 foot in, like I'm still going to do everything else I was doing before. So it was like this double life that I was living. I was trying to figure it out. And I was just praying during those years, like, God, help me find a community that would teach me what it looks like to walk in relationship with you. And I got to my senior year of college, and ended up getting involved in this college ministry called the Salt Company that I met a couple people, and specifically one guy, he had just sat down and met up with me. And I remember him like, hearing me out kind of where I was at and everything, and looked me in the face and was like, pretty much like, you're lukewarm. Like if you wanted a true relationship with Christ, if you really wanted to make change bad enough, you would make change. And so that just really stuck with me. And then I started just coming around a little bit more often. And then I ended up going to this conference that they have. And I think when I was finally able to get around that community and watch people hear my story and love me through that and say like, hey, we're not going anywhere. And also like, let us sit down and actually walk you through the gospel. It was the first time I ever had really been walked through the gospel. And it just clicked. For the first time, I was like, okay, God, I'm gonna surrender this to you. And I really want to like pursue you for the first time for real. And so I just remember in a matter of like 6 months, like my life just dramatically changed, getting to hear and understand and also be able to turn around and articulate the gospel was just powerful. And having people that were patient with me and willing to walk me through that. And it just made the world of a difference. And so, yeah, that was, I believe that was 2019 that happened. And so we're now 6 years later and just running hard.
Man, I heard everything that you said.
Yeah.
And, hearing it again, it's almost like I'm hearing it again for the first time, because I'm just like, man, like that is quite the journey. I think one of the things you said about just like experiencing Jesus in the mountains, I think oftentimes, like, listen, again, this is Humble where we talk about the real stuff. Like, I think oftentimes we feel like it has to be confined to a church service or like a worship gathering. And, we're both worship guys. We can get into that later. But it's like we think it has to be a certain way for God to move a certain way for us to receive him. And it's like, that's obviously not true. But yet a lot of things that we do in Christianity makes it seem like God's in a box. So I just love hearing that, where you're like, it wasn't in a church service. It wasn't in like a worship gathering. Not that those things are bad, obviously, But for you, that wasn't your story.
Yeah.
Like God literally met you where you were.
Yeah.
And that's cool. And I think the other thing is you said, basically you got discipled with the gospel, and you heard the gospel, you understood the gospel, and then you were able to articulate the gospel.
Mhm.
Like that's a whole sermon right there, bro. Like that's bars right there. Just because I think sometimes we can hear the gospel and not understand it.
Mhm.
Sanctification, right?
Yep.
The process of becoming more like Jesus. And I think sometimes we can even understand it, which is good, but we can't articulate it to others.
Yeah.
Which it's that next step of like, the scripture that says we need to be ready to have an answer for the hope that we have, right?
Mhm.
That's what that reminded me of as I'm hearing you say that.
Yeah.
So, bro, that's incredible. So I want to get to this video
Mhm.
that you posted 3 years ago now.
3.5.
Three and a half years ago, man. Obviously a lot has changed and morphed and evolved, I'm sure. But man, talk to us about that. Just what led to you being like, okay, I'm gonna do this video and share my story, my testimony, and then just obviously you don't have to talk about all the elements of it, but the elements that you shared. Why did you feel like that was important to share?
Yeah, no, that's good. Whew, that is there's a lot there. So obviously, like, we've sat down and talked and walked through the hard stuff. And so one of the biggest hardships I've had to face in life is attraction to other men and struggling with same-sex attraction. And that's, a big part of why my walk with the Lord has been so challenging and so hard is for so long trying to figure that out and what that looked like in regards to pursuing a faith. And so I think when I got to that spot where, I finally decided to live for the Lord for the first time, I had people discipling me. I had this internal conflict that I was feeling because I had always been taught like homosexuality is the worst thing that is the worst sin somebody could deal with, worst thing. And I had this view in my mind and in my head that God was over here and he was looking at my sin saying, I hate that. Get that away from me. I want nothing to do with that. And just this conflict and separation. And for somebody who's trying to pursue their faith and like really like live for the Lord, like it's like dang near impossible to like to try and reconcile those when you have that mindset. And I just remember, I'm walking with the Lord, I'm growing, I'm understanding the gospel for the first time. And I think this was 2021, April of 2021. I don't know if you know who Colton Underwood is. He was one of the Bachelors, NFL player. He had done an interview and come out on public television. And I remember watching this interview. I was sitting at my job watching this interview, and he's talking about how in 2020 he had to come to terms with his sexuality. And as like he was opening up and finally just letting it out, he found so much freedom and like didn't want to kill himself and didn't have to like cry himself to sleep, and just talking about this freedom that he felt from that. And I'm watching this and I'm like, I want that freedom that he's talking about. I'm tired of this internal struggle. Like, every night, like crying myself to sleep saying, God, take this away from me. This constant battle, this depression, this anxiety, this constantly having to hide or manipulate myself to be somebody who I'm not, or like try and put on this image. And I'm just like, I want that freedom that he's talking about. And so I had at this point kind of almost taken another hiatus from the faith in a sense, because I grew up so legalistic that I just believed whatever I was told. And so I was like, okay, well, what does the Bible actually say about this? Like, do I actually know, or do I just believe what I believe because I've just always been told this? Yeah. And so through that time, I had met up with a couple different friends, and there were 3 friends specifically of mine that I had talked with, my friends Zach and Nathan and my friend Luke. And pretty much all of them were saying like the same thing of just like, hey man, like, it's at the time 2022. And they were like, hey, what would it look like for you to open up? and just let the world in. Um, and I was just like, okay. So I was sitting with that, and my friend Luke was like, "Hey man," like he walked me through First John, and was like, "What would it look like to walk in the light
Come on.
and just be authentic about your struggles and who you are and your story and what you've walked through?" And like we're sitting in this coffee shop in South Columbia, Missouri, and I'm just like, man, I've never really because I grew up in such a home that was so like homophobic, and my parents were just so against that and so outspoken against that that I just grew up like shutting down and holding everything in. I've never had the thought of just like, what would it look like to
Mm.
open up? And so I remember being here in Dallas, Texas, visiting for the first time, spent a week here, went to the porch and went to Watermark while I was here. And Jenny Allen was talking at the time about like loneliness and the need for community and like how community is meant to help us walk in the light, and they help us bear each other's burdens.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting in a spot in life right now where I just didn't have strong community, and I was just struggling with all this myself. And so during that week, I wrote out my full story, everything.
Wow.
And I came back, and I had a friend that was a videographer, and I had always seen like the I Am Second videos, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, those are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, maybe I can do something like that. And I had a friend that was a videographer, and I was like, hey man, here's my story. I wrote this out. What do you think of this? Would you be willing to maybe help me with a project? And he was just like, absolutely, like I'm in.
Let's go.
And so I had taken this time to just seek the Lord and say, hey, God, I got to figure this out, because I had struggled with suicide multiple times in my life. And I'm like, if I can't figure this out, like I might actually go through with the suicide attempt,
Mm.
or I need to just leave my faith behind. I can't do this struggle anymore.
Yeah.
So I was like, help me understand. Like, I don't know what to do here. And so in this process, we filmed the video, and I just walked through my testimony, and just everything that I've been through, all the abuse and addictions and struggles, what my faith looked like, what my family situation looked like. And by the end of it, it was like a light bulb went off. And for the first time, I had just felt the Lord put on my heart. Like we talk about the first commandment of like, love the Lord your God above all else with all your mind, heart, body, soul, like
Yeah.
everything. But it's like, it's not just simply like your mind and your heart and your body and your soul, but it's like the idea of that is like with everything. Like this idea of he wants everything. He wants mind, heart, body, soul, sin, sexuality. Like he wants all of it. And it's like I had this idea for so long that God was saying, get that away from me. That's the worst thing you can deal with. I want nothing to do with that. When in reality, he was saying, no, surrender that to me. Come lay it at the foot of the cross.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, I want all of you, not just part of you. I want it all.
Yeah.
And the light switch just finally went off. And when I was able just to fully just lay it down at the foot of the cross and sit with the idea of like, what has the cross done in my life?
Mm.
And how it's so worth laying down everything, it made the difference. And so I released the video about 2 weeks before I moved to Dallas. I remember moving here, and I met a couple guys the first week I moved here who saw my video, and they served at the porch, and they were like, hey man, like, we saw this video. They pulled me aside after the porch that Tuesday, and we're just like, we want to walk with you through this. We want to help you bear this burden.
Yeah.
And for the first time, really help you be fully surrendered to Christ in
Come
this.
on.
And so, dude, that video was life-changing for me. And just the responses I got from people, overall, just phenomenal. And people reaching out saying like, thank you so much for, saying that. Like, I struggle with this, or I struggle with that, or I struggle with addiction, or, I have sexual abuse in my past that I've struggled with. And, I can relate to you on that. Like, thank you for being bold. Like,
Mm.
and so many just different parts of my story that people got to relate to. It was nuts, absolutely nuts. And that was, 3.5 years ago.
Yeah,
So
bro.
absolutely crazy. What the
Wow.
Lord did, through that process. But yeah, now we're 3.5 years later, and what was cool is, you know, I got pretty quickly involved in the young adult ministry, The Porch, and was just surrounded by people who loved me and helped me bear those burdens, and just helped me grow significantly in my faith over the last 3.5 years. And also getting the chance to turn around and serve, you know, 4,000 young adults every Tuesday night, and getting to hear stories like mine where I'm able to help people that are struggling, saying, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to deal with this. Like, and just getting to say, like, hey, this is my story. This is what the Lord's done in my life.
Yeah.
And just get to walk them like through that. And like, I love the term, like getting in the trenches with people.
Yes, sir.
I love it. And like, I feel like that's been such a cool opportunity of something I've gotten to do, is just get in the trenches with people where it's messy and it's dirty and it's just not a fun spot to be in. But that's where you get to see real, authentic people. And you get to meet people in a really tough spot and just love them well, and shine the light of Christ like it was shined into my own life. And so, crazy. But yeah, we're 3.5 years later now, and so much has happened.
I know, man. There's, and even since we've met, like, I know there's so much that's happened. But man, I think here's what I just realized too. So I didn't plan it this way, but so when I asked about your journey with Jesus, like, you gave like a very good overview of that. It was very succinct, very eloquent. So good job doing that. That was amazing. However, this passed through with the video, the context of the video that you did, that is giving bits and pieces, and really more than bits and pieces, just a lot of elements of your life, added a lot of context and color.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I think that's important. When I think about the scripture that says we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony, like that's what you just did.
Yeah.
It's level setting for people. Like, yes, you got to the point to where you are fully devoted and have an active relationship with Jesus Christ. And there was a progression in that, and there was a process to get there. And obviously there were some other guys that came alongside you in that, you know, community is important, right?
Yeah.
But man, this is a very important conversation to have.
Yeah.
Like, I just think we oftentimes will gloss over the messy parts of our testimony because we're afraid of how people will look at it or judge us. Or sometimes, if I'm honest, it's like, have I really overcome that? Am I really on the other side of that, walking in victory? If I talk about it, will it take me back to that place?
Yeah.
It's like, nah, man, I'm just giving receipts of what God's done.
Yep.
And that's what I hear you doing. But I think, bro, as a man in general, to admit that you had same-sex attraction is a big deal, because I think there's a couple sides of that. I think from just the manhood secular side, it's like, to even say that, there's a lot of backlash that you could receive from just the stereotypical man. But then on the other side, as a Christian, the potential backlash too of admitting something like that in a group of people, totally putting yourself out there to be vulnerable, not knowing if you're going to be judged for your past. And then, unfortunately, people could be thinking, you used to, or you do, like, currently struggle with that. And honestly, it's not fair. It doesn't allow you to be a full person. It's only isolating you to an aspect of you. But I say all that to say, I thank you for sharing that, because I think for a man to say, here's what I struggled with, and here's how literally Jesus rescued me in that, is powerful. Because I don't think as dudes we're having these types of conversations, like talking about the real stuff. Like, we're not talking about it in a way that actually is helpful. We either don't talk about it at all, or we gloss over it, and we're not really inviting God into the freedom that we actually have experienced, and allowing people to see that. So, man, like, thank you for sharing that. So, okay, real quick, because you posted it on YouTube, right?
Yeah,
that's
YouTube.
Right. Which I think I went to your social media and it took me to YouTube, but that thing is still up.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Bro.
Yep. And I just reposted it. So
okay.
May 3-4 months ago, 5 months ago at this point, was the 3-year mark. And so I kind of reposted it.
Wow.
And just talked a little bit in that repost of just like, man, this was 3 years ago and so much has changed. And like, the Lord's been so kind and generous. But yeah, it's been crazy.
And bro, like, you don't have to flex, but there's a lot of people that watch that video.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, that's, And glory be to God.
Mm.
Glory be to God that so many people have watched you talk about a very real and vulnerable part of your life. And the other thing I just was hearing as you're talking is, bro, you gave people the gift of going second by you going first. And I know you realize the power of that, but there's so many people that have nuanced stories and journeys that are afraid to go first because, again, all the stuff that we just talked about, the backlash and blah, 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 blah. But man, by you being honest about what you've gone through, it gave other people permission to be honest about what they're going through too.
Yeah.
And that we need more of that.
Yeah.
Like we need more conversations like that to help people. Because to your point, that led to even you continuing your healing journey through Watermark and the porch and like the guys that surrounded you. So like it, even if it's just for that, it benefited you, but even much more than that, it benefited so many people.
Yeah.
Just by you being honest, bro.
Yeah.
So thank you for blessing the body of Christ with your story and showcasing the true power of God in it.
Yeah.
Like, again, I don't think in this new world of vulnerability and authenticity and people want to be real about what they're saying. I think people say that to a point.
Yeah.
But it's not truly being honest. It's not truly being vulnerable to the point where you're allowing someone to hear or see something about you that they otherwise would not have unless you said it.
Yeah.
So, man, okay, so back in May, you posted 3-year anniversary.
Yep.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So, man, post May, post 3 years, 3.5 years, like what is life like now with walking through all those different nuances? You put the video out there, you've gotten a lot more discipleship and people coming alongside you and even healing and freedom. So what does life look like now post video?
It's a good question, man. You had mentioned like sometimes people question like, is that like still a thing? Was that a thing? Like, what does that look like? And I think that's a question I get often. And yeah, absolutely, it's still a thing. I think that this is not something that just goes away. And I think that's one thing that I've had to just realize is this is something that I very well could wrestle with for the rest of my life. And so I believe that God is powerful enough to, take away this from me, but I'm not naive enough to think that he guarantees that he will.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, one thing I've come to realize is like really just sitting in grace. Like what is grace? And like, I love Ephesians 2, 1-10. I could spend hours just talking about that. Just talk about how we were dead in our trespasses, but because of grace, nothing we could have done, like we're given a free gift. And we have new life because of that. And I just sit in that and I think about that oftentimes. And I'm just like, yeah, I struggle and it's hard. It's so hard. But would I be dependent upon God and his grace if I didn't struggle with this?
Yeah, bro.
And I think this has really helped me come to terms with grace. And specifically just like, there's overall grace and we hear grace towards like, Christians in the church, but like grace for Christian, grace for me. And God's like very personal, like choosing to give me that gift. And so I think it is incredibly difficult. But one of the terms I've been trying to just, sit with is like, what does it look like to wrestle well?
Yeah, bro.
Because the wrestling, there's a good chance it's never going to end until the day that I die. And this process of sanctification is incredibly difficult.
Yes.
And just like slowly becoming more and more like Christ. That doesn't mean, you snap your fingers and you're just perfect. It is a long, messy and hard process. And so I think in that time, we're still going to wrestle with sin. We're still going to wrestle with struggles and multiple things in life. But what does it look like to wrestle well? And so I've had to really just sit in that over the past 3 years and just be like, okay, God, I'm going to fully surrender this to you. It could be at any point you could take this away, or it might be till the day that I die that I still wrestle with this. What does it look like to wrestle well? And so I think with that, there's, multiple things that I've, had to come to terms with and how to sit in. I think one, I'm going through EMDR counseling right now.
Yeah, you are. Come on.
And finally taking the opportunity to work through some of that trauma. And I think that is a big, key item for me because so much of that struggle is tied to just trauma and pain
Mhm.
that, it makes it so much more of a bigger thing when it just keeps taking me back to that. And so I
Mhm.
think for me, I'm just like sitting in a spot now where I'm like, okay, God, I'm going to, you know, take the opportunity to let you heal this trauma. I'm
Mhm.
not going to, continue holding on to these things. And it's funny because you look back and, this has been a thing since as early as I can remember. I think 5 is the time where I was really starting to realize it. So that's 23 years
Wow.
of struggle and internalizing and finding all these coping mechanisms and protection mechanisms and things that are just unhealthy, but ways that I use to protect myself.
Yeah,
And
bro.
so now I'm having to go back and work through all of that and break down those
Mhm.
walls. And it's hard. It's so
Mhm.
hard. But I think that it's so worth it. And so I think taking the opportunity to really address the hurt and the pain is
Mhm.
big. Um, and it's been tough. I mean, I just sat down with some friends this week and was just like, I'm very much somebody who's open to like feedback and people calling me out for where I fall short.
Yeah.
And I had to sit down with some friends this week that were calling me out on some things just in a really just kind of harsh manner in a sense. But
Mhm.
normally, I'm like, yeah, give it to me. Like
Yeah.
I want to change. Like if I'm not aware of something, I want to know.
Mhm.
And I just sat down with them and I was like, listen, y'all, like I love you guys. Like you guys are some of my closest friends. But I'm in a season of life right now where I am emotionally walking through a lot.
Mhm.
And I am constantly looking back on my past right now and all my shortcomings and everything I failed in and all this pain and trauma. And I had to sit there and be like, what I need right now from you guys is empathy and just to sit with me
Yeah,
and sit
man.
with me in that. And I welcome the correction. I welcome, the feedback. But I think right now in this season, it needs to look a little bit different.
It's good.
So I think there's two things that I've even just been thinking about over the past week with that is one, you have to be aware of the season that you're in and what you need.
Yep.
And then two, community is huge. I
Yeah.
think one of the biggest overarching themes of the past 3 years for me is community
Yeah, bro.
and what that's looked like. And I've been through different cycles of that. But I'm in a community group with 2 other guys and love them to death. They are phenomenal and one of the best things that's happened to me because
Mhm.
I have been able to walk into, we meet up every Thursday morning, walk into that group every Thursday morning and be fully seen, fully known, and fully loved.
Yeah, bro.
And to be able to have a space where I can experience that, I don't have to hide anything.
Come on.
I can say it as it is. And like, it's challenging because they don't fully understand. And so there's things that sometimes they just can't, fully come to terms
Sure.
with or understand because it's just
Sure.
not their journey or their struggle.
Mhm.
But they love me so well through it and they sit with me in it. And one of them is like super gentle and just very just like empathetic, and the other one is he's just kind of the guy that doesn't beat around the bush and just says it as it is.
Come on.
And so they're very opposite, and it's funny because I'm like I need both of that in my
Yes,
life.
sir.
And so it's been so good. And I think my community has been huge in helping me walk through things because there's times where I'm crashing out on life, like fully. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, God, what the heck? Like, why?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like David in the Psalms, just
Yes,
like,
yes. That's exactly what I was thinking
yeah,
too.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so, and in those times, like to be able to have my community come surround me and
Mhm.
remind me of truth, remind me
Mhm.
of the grace that I've been given, and just love me well through that, both with harsh truth
Yeah.
and empathy, I think has been huge. So I think community is one of those big things of just like to be able to wrestle well. We are meant to bear each other's burdens and
Yeah,
walk
bro.
in community. Um, and so I think that has been a big key ticket item for me is finding that community and also just discipleship as
Mhm.
well.
Mhm.
I think not only being discipled, but discipling others. And so I think that, I've had multiple men in my life, you being one of them over the past like 3 years that have, heard my story and just sat with me and said like, hey, I want to pour into you. I
Mhm.
want to help you grow in your faith. And like we sat down a little over 2 years ago, and I said, "Hey, I'm looking for a worship mentor. I want to grow my worship skills." And we met, and then I just remember sitting at Civil Poor, and that just turned into multiple hour meeting where we just we dove so far into life.
We hit everything.
Yeah. And you just looked at me and said, "Man, I'm in."
Yeah.
And just like the cool opportunities we've gotten over the past 2 years, and the way you've just encouraged and poured into me. And I've had multiple guys like that, guys that are just older and wiser, that have been able to like just push me and ask me hard questions, and really dig. Because I think it's easy to walk around and not want to address everything, not want to open up about everything, but having people that can ask you the hard questions and dig, I think makes a world of difference. So yeah, man, there's a lot of things there, but I think understanding grace and being able to sit in grace and the gospel and make it personal, and learning to just surround yourself with community and discipleship. Those are the things that help me wrestle well.
100%.
And so it's not easy. It's incredibly difficult. There's times that I get frustrated and I'm like, question everything. And then there's times where I'm just like, God, you are so good and so kind. But now I'm kind of in a reality of, what do I do in this wrestling season? How do I go about this, moving forward into the future?
Yeah.
So it's been so much focusing on the past, and I've been now kind of over really the past year thinking about, okay, moving forward, what does this look like? So there's questions of just like, what does friendships look like? What is intimate, like deep friendships, especially with other guys? Like that just gets really challenging when you struggle with something like this. There's a lot there, and that's been something I've had to dive into. The question of marriage and a family has been something big that I've wrestled through, and I'm just seeking the Lord in right now. And all those things are just super difficult. And so, but again, I think it just comes with a open-handedness to say, like, regardless, God, of whatever you give me, regardless of if I have no deep friendships, if I never get married, if I never have kids, you're still good. And you're still faithful.
Yes.
But these are the desires of my heart. And so I think in just, kind of seeking those things, it's just hard because some things you kind of got to come to reality with, of just like, I may never have like, the wedding day or the family that I dreamed of and that I still dream of and that I desire. I may never have, this idea of these deep, intimate friendships, and I believe that God is good, and could give those things, but they're not guaranteed, and I can't bet everything on them.
Yeah.
And so I think being able to sit in a spot where it's like, even if you don't, you're still good.
Bro, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? Like, it's like our God is more than powerful to save us. This is the Twan's translation. But he's like, he's more than powerful to be able to do it. But even if he doesn't, like, bro.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so,
yes.
Yeah, man, it's been a journey, but, and I'm still wrestling still, there's really good days and really bad days. And so, yeah, but I think one of the biggest things now is, I posted that video. I've grown over the past 3 years. And I think over the last like 6 months has been more of a prayer of like, okay, God, now what do I do with this?
That's good.
And so it's like, you've given me this story for a reason. I posted this video. That was a really good first step in kind of figuring out what to do with this. But now we're 3.5 years later. And especially since May, when I reposted it, I was just like, okay, God, what do I do with this? You've given me a story. How do I go about this? And so I think one of the big things that I have been pushing for is like, I want this to be my ministry. When I talk about ministry, I'm like, I love worship. Worship will always be a part of my ministry.
Sure.
But also like, God's given me this story for a reason. And I want to be outspoken about it because this is the gospel in a sense of what God's done in my life. I get to share the gospel from a very personal vantage point.
Yeah.
And it's so unique. And I'm like thinking about how I would want to go out and evangelize and share the gospel. I'm like, what better way than to go out and share my story and what God's done in my life
Yes, sir.
from a very personal vantage point.
Mhm.
And so I think for the past, 6 months, it's been a prayer of like, God, help bring opportunity for me to be bold and share my story and grow my ministry in this. And like, he has absolutely done that. It's been
Mhm.
crazy, crazy. There's probably at least 10 guys in the past 2 months that have randomly like encountered me. Either I've, ran into them at the porch, or guys that have reached out to me and just said, hey, this is my story. I would love to talk with you about this and what this has looked like for you. And
Wow.
like, this is, I'm struggling in this. And it's been phenomenal. And then just like finding ways to push on the church and say, hey, we need more equipping. We need to be more outspoken about
Yeah.
this. We
Yeah.
need to find ways to love more people that struggle with this and create an environment where people can be open and feel
Mhm.
loved.
Mhm.
And that's hard because like Big C church, like overall church historically hasn't done a great job of that.
Right, right.
And so I think for me, also having studied counseling and psychology and therapy, like I believe like theology and psychology are just two whole halves of God's grace for us understanding one another in our brokenness and in
Mhm.
our sin and just loving each other well. And so I'm very much like the person to push for like, let's sit down and like get in the trenches. And like, I love that term, get in the trenches, because you're getting in with people's messiness.
Yep.
And I'm not just shoving the gospel down their throat. I'm not just shoving theology at them, but I'm meeting them with empathy and trying to care for them and love them well while I share
Yep.
what the gospels look like in my own life and try and share truth, like truth and grace.
Right.
Like, and like making sure you meet people with both is huge.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's been cool just to watch God like answer that prayer of, hey, God, I want to use this as my ministry, and him just to like slowly start to allow that to happen.
Mhm.
It's been so cool. So cool.
That's cool, man. I love the idea of turning pain into purpose. And to sum up all the amazing things that you said, like that's what I hear. That's the thread that I hear, is that you don't want your pain to just be something that you've dealt with and overcome, but now how do I help others with it? How do I walk in my purpose with that?
Yeah.
And I think, man, even as a you kind of mentioned like you're studying counseling and therapy. Like, me, we've talked. Like,
Yep.
I'm all for theology and therapy.
Mhm.
Like, it is necessary. They are not two opposing things. They
Yeah.
actually work hand in hand. And there's so many things that within the therapy world that if you look in scripture, it's like there was already a framework for that.
Mhm.
But I do think there needs to be a nuance of helping someone who's trained to help you walk through what you've gone through,
Yeah.
to be able to deal with that,
Mm.
to integrate the negative reality, to regulate yourself, and then what does life look like now?
Yeah.
And I don't think, I don't know what the latest stat is, but last time I checked, like only 1% of the world does their
Mhm.
mental health work.
Yeah.
And that means there's a lot of us walking around dysregulated,
Mhm.
and our trauma is what's making the decisions for us. And even people that are believers in Jesus, like, I love Jesus and I have not worked through my trauma.
Mm.
So I can love Jesus and still make crazy decisions,
Mhm.
because a part of my discipleship journey is healing from the past and healing from my trauma. So I think what you're talking about is really, really important, man. And even just the aspect of like wrestling and
Mhm.
struggling, like, I think sometimes when we hear the word struggle or wrestle, we think of it just negative, like, oh, I struggle with this. It's like, it's actually a good thing.
Yeah.
If you're struggling with something, that means the Holy Spirit is giving you a conviction on the
Yep.
inside that says, hey, there's something better
Yeah.
than what you currently want to do, what your
Yeah.
flesh currently
There's
wants
something
to
to
do.
fight for.
Yeah, and there's something to fight for. So I think that we've got to stop being afraid of that word struggle,
Yeah.
because it actually means like I'm doing my best to heal,
Mhm.
walk in freedom, walk in victory, and be obedient.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, like when you're struggling with something, obedience may look like crying yourself to sleep.
Yeah.
It may look like I want to do this thing, but I know that God's word says I should not do that.
Yeah.
I cannot do that. It's sinful and not aligned to His will for my life. And yet this sucks.
Yeah.
And again, not stuff that we talk about all the time, because
Yeah.
we want it to be, I was struggling, God healed me, and now I'm better.
Yeah.
It's like, oftentimes when we've walked in something for a long
Mhm.
time, it takes just as long to walk out of it.
Yep.
To your point, can God just In a moment, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes we have to walk out, and we need community to do that, bro.
Yeah.
One of the other things you said that I just thought was important to circle back to is, and I'm gonna look right in this camera and say this, like, you need community.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're watching this right now and you're hearing what Christian's saying, if you've noticed anything that's been a continual theme, it's the fact that he has had consistent community that has held him accountable, but they've also given him the space. They've given him the space to be himself. And something you said that was powerful is, you communicated to your community what you needed right now.
Yeah.
And it's just funny. The thing that jumped in my mind was the story of Job, where it's like his friends at first, they just sat with him.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh man, so sorry this is going on. And then as the chapters progress,
they
start, most of them, giving him trash advice.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, y'all didn't need to say anything.
Yeah.
Y'all just need to sit with old dude and, just be with him, because he lost everything.
Yeah.
So, man, I think that's a really important thing for you, and on the behalf of people, that you are the person that needs the community, and we are the community for others.
Absolutely.
To not be so prideful to assume what you need.
Yeah.
But to ask, and then also to give you the space to communicate what you need.
Yeah. When I think, like, even a big thing on that is not just surrounding yourself with a singular specific type of community, because we need wide variety of community. Like I talked about my two guys in my CG, like, they're very different, very, very different. Like, one is just very bold and will just be the first one to jump to truth and speak truth and proclaim the gospel and love you well through that boldness. But the other one is just so gentle. They're very opposite, both very incredible dudes, love people so well, but they love and care for people in very different ways. And I think if we're just surrounding ourselves by, one or the other, or like people that are just like, I'm just going to tell you whatever you want to hear. And it's just like, that's not how it should be. Like, we need people to speak truth into us. We need people to call us out, where we're falling short, and loving us well through that. And that's the one thing I love about both of those guys, is like, they're so different, but they love me so well, both incredibly strong in their faith, but they just have different styles and different ways that they go about just love and care, and neither is better or worse than the other. They're just different, and that's why it's been such a blessing to me to have both of them. So
I'm curious, how, just in your boldness, in you being very open about your journey, have you come across maybe conversations with people where you can kind of sense maybe it's getting a little awkward because they were not prepared for your vulnerability?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, that's been an incredibly difficult thing. And that's the thing. There's always a little bit of nerve in sharing with somebody new, because you never know how people are going to react.
It's true. It's a risk.
It is.
Yeah.
There's always risk there. And I would say, while majority of people that actually take the time to get to know me and hear my story, react really well, I will say there's been some really hard, reactions. And I've had people that have, walked out of my life. I've had people that I'll be like, oh no, yeah, you're good. And then just completely change the way they act and behave around me. And that's hard.
It's unfortunate.
It's really hard. And so, and then, there's people you tell them in the moment, you can kind of see a change in them and the way that they're reacting to that. And there's always a risk there. But somebody had told me a while ago, my friend Luke was just like, man, if people are going to walk out of your life because of your struggles, and they hear that you're walking with the Lord and walk away because of that, those aren't the people you want to have in your life.
Yes, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Those are the people you want anyway.
And that's hard because I'm a people person. I'm a people pleaser.
Sure.
I want to please people. I want to have really good relationships with everybody. And I think that's one of the hardest things I've had to realize is, like, I can't have that with everybody. It's impossible. Not everybody is going to be able to handle that. Not everybody's going to, and that's not even just with that struggle. That's in life in general. You're not going to be best friends with everybody.
Right.
And so I think even in regards to my struggle of just like, okay, having to accept the fact that, like, I have to let some people go. And sometimes that's really hard. But it's necessary sometimes. And so,
It is, bro.
yeah.
I mean, I think about pruning, bro.
Hmm.
Like this
Yeah.
is
Oh my goodness.
that's what it is. It's
Yeah.
allowing God to
John
prune,
15. Mm.
yes, like and shave off aspects of our lives that are no longer either they're no longer relevant
Yep.
or it wasn't supposed to be there in the first
Yeah.
place. And I think, man, that's another important thing that I would just like for our viewers. It's like, be the friend that when somebody tells you something that is probably the hardest thing they've ever had to
Mhm.
share, maybe the first time they've shared it, that you're not the friend that runs away. You're the
Mhm.
friend that's going to be there to create space. But you're also honest of like, hey, maybe because of things that you've gone through, you can't handle
Mhm.
what they're telling you, but at least be honest about that, be open about that, to walk away as believers of Jesus, right? Like if you're not a believer of Jesus, that's one thing, but if you're a believer in Jesus, to walk away from someone after they've shared something
Mhm.
about their life and they've exposed themselves, that's like the worst thing we can do. And I think as a community, we have to be those people that model, like as this community and the Christian community, we have to be those people that model what it means to hold space for people. And
Mm.
it's not just you shared and I let you share. It's also, hey man, how can I help? How can I serve you?
Yeah.
How can I partner with you? Obviously, I'm praying for you, but I also like just me personally, I want to be the friend that people can call in the middle of the night about something that they've
Mhm.
done that they don't want to share with anybody else.
Yeah.
I'm like, we all need that friend. And if you don't have that friend, I want to be that friend.
Yeah.
Not just so that way you can talk about your sin and we don't do anything about it. No, let's talk about your sin. Let's talk about your falling out or your shortcoming. And then what does God's word have to say about that?
Yeah.
And how do we move forward in this?
Absolutely.
But I think a lot of times we don't even feel the freedom to share that.
Mhm.
So then we become duplicitous people. And I am one way. I talk about this on another episode that I did just about authenticity, but it's like you walk around fragmenting yourself with different groups of people
Mhm.
because you don't feel like you can share the most honest, open, and transparent version
Oh yeah.
of who you are. So because of that, you literally become an actor
Mhm.
and you act differently depending on the group that you're with.
Yep.
Your church friends, your hangout friends, your mom, whatever. And it's like they get 3 different versions of you.
Yeah.
And then you're left by yourself in your house or whatever
Mhm.
going, who am I really?
Yeah.
And the reality is like God has already said who we're supposed to be.
Mhm.
He's already said who we are. But are we brave enough to actually walk in that?
Yeah.
So man, I really appreciate you nuancing a very, very important conversation. And I keep coming back to this, but I think especially as men, bro,
Mhm.
like for you to even be vulnerable about like, you would love to be married one day.
Mhm.
You would, by the way, are you single?
I am.
Okay.
I am.
So ladies, if you're watching this, Christian, he's a smart guy. You know what I'm saying? He's got goals in his life. He's pretty swole too. So I'm just saying, hit my guy up. No, but no, seriously, like I think for you to even say that
Mhm.
is not a normal thing in our culture because it could feel almost like you've done something wrong
Mhm.
or that you're less than. And
Yeah.
I know you know this, but it's like, nah, man,
Yeah.
like you're exactly where you're supposed to be right now.
Mhm.
And God has you right where he wants you. But I cannot wait to continue to celebrate what God does through this.
Yeah.
Like through your journey of you've been vulnerable, you were brave enough to put out the video, you've had people reach out to you, you are actively in community
Yeah.
with people within your church home, within your community group. And you're literally waking up every day choosing to be that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you would agree it hasn't always been perfect, but you're progressing.
Yeah.
And that's what matters. So,
Yeah.
man, bro, with the remainder of our time, man, like, is there anything that you just want our viewers to know or anything you just want to share as it relates to just anything that we've talked about?
Yeah. No, that's a good question, man. I think for anybody who's struggling and they're just alone or isolated, I think that was the big key change for me, was finding that community. Like, we cannot do it alone.
Come on.
Cannot do it alone. And just like my friends that I sat down with at the time, where they're like, hey, what would it look like to, just be open and share your story? Like, one of the things they had told me is just like, one, at the time, they're like, we live in 2022, things aren't as crazy as,
Mhm.
people saying that is what it used to be.
Mm-mm-mm.
They're like, they told me, they were like, I bet you'd be surprised how people would react to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this idea that everybody's going to hate me, everybody's going to run. And in reality, as soon as I started sharing, I had so many people that were like, man, I wish we would have known. I'm sorry that you had to walk through that alone. I wish we could have walked through that with you, both Christian and non-Christian.
Wow.
And I think when you are able to open up and be real with people and just be like, hey, this is hard for me. Like, this is a struggle. This is what I'm walking through. Like, vulnerability, like, breeds vulnerability, and like transparency. Like, when you let people in, like, the odds are people are going to appreciate that. And so I think my advice in what I was given and what I continually replicate to other guys is like, start small, but start opening up. Like, allow people to see you and love you and know you, because you can't be fully loved if you're not fully seen and fully known.
Okay, you preach it down. All right.
And so I think taking that step of just like, what does it look like to be fully seen and fully known so that you can be fully loved? And like, it's just small baby steps. For me, it started with me just opening up to a couple of people that I was really close with that had no idea. And just watching the reactions and the way that they love me through that, it gave me more confidence. And, you know, there's some people that aren't going to handle it well. And I think you have to be able to discern, like, you know, when or where or how to have those conversations. But I think just starting small and taking those steps to walk in the light, be authentic, be real, and just allow people to love you through that. I think is huge. So like, finding that community and those people that are going to just love you regardless, that are going to be able to fully know you, fully see you, and fully love you. That's where I found that freedom that I wanted. And Colton was talking about that in his video of just that freedom that I wanted so badly. That's where I found, you know, that and grace, and like the Lord just combining grace and community in my life, and like understanding grace fully and understanding community and just walking in, being fully seen, fully known, fully loved. That's where I found that freedom.
Let's go, man.
So,
bro, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for being a part of this today, and for blessing me, blessing our viewers with your story, man. Like, literally, you're continuing to do that. And I'm so thankful that, you know, Humble, you know, this podcast, we get to be a part of it with you. And, you know, I'm excited to see what God continues to do through this. So thank you again, man. This has been an honor. It's been an honor. Well, y'all, this has been an incredible episode. We'll drop Christian's handles and stuff like that for social media. And I would love for you to go check out his video that we've been referencing. But this is Humble, where we talk about the real stuff. And that's not just a cute tagline. That's not just a slogan. This is how we're living life through this movement, through this community of people. So thank you so much for watching. Again, you've heard me say it on every episode, but if you want to subscribe on YouTube. If you're watching this right now on YouTube, subscribe to that. Also, if you want to support us, go to patreon.com/Humble Podcast to be able to support the movement. My plan is to have more guests on here and to have Christian come back. Will you come back?
Absolutely.
Bro, he's willing to come back. So I'm so glad that you have joined us today. Thank you so much. And until next time, we'll see you later. Peace.